are on. Okay, folks, we're going to start in just a second. And again, we're way behind here. Lagging. And again, because we're doing it live from a convention, there's going to be probably a slight lag between us talking and you seeing the picture. But we're going to start as soon as we get some indication from you guys that you can hear us. Today is Saturday. It's the last day of the convention or it's not the last day. It's the second last day of the convention at the Gathering of Friends. And I think they just are about to open the door for the flea market, so you can hear the excited buzz of people in the background who are excited to go get games. You're not in line to get old games, are you?
I'm not, but now all of a sudden on your screen some birds popped up.
Yeah, that's an advertisement.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
Okay, so folks can hear us. So let me make sure I can get this. Okay, so our first designer today / publisher is Uwe Eickert.
Yes, Eickert, yep.
Eickert, okay, good.
And I want to thank you for having me here. I am really honored. I love talking. As we were talking, I was talking with Tom. I didn't know that he was one of the rebel Amish people.
That's right.
From
I don't
the
wear
Florida
black.
sections. Yeah, no black. So, and this is the beginning of this convention for me, because it's really the first time I'm actually coherent in the morning. So it's the first day I'm actually taking it in, which is nice.
Well, that is good. Well, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, first of all, Academy Games. Now, Academy Games has been around for...
We started in end of 2008.
That's right. I was at the first Essen you were at, maybe? I was at one of your Essens.
Yes, I went to Essen right away. Didn't know anybody, didn't know anything, and had a game.
A war game?
Oh, no. It is. We do not do war games.
Okay, I apologize.
We do cooperative area control games, because we cooperatively try to take the other guy's area away, like all good Euro games. We're rebranding our company, by the way.
All right, well, it's Conflict of Heroes is the game that came out.
Yes.
And it came out to incredibly good buzz.
Yes.
And one of the difficulties that I thought with making a war game was the genre as a whole is not growing at the same expanse that the rest of board gaming has been growing.
That's what everybody says.
I'm not talking about your particular game. I'm talking about the fact that we don't see many companies making as many hex and counter maps and things like that, right? So
correct.
So you brought in this new game, and yet it still was very successful, despite the fact that this type of game doesn't normally do well.
Right.
Why?
I think what we did is, number one, we only play Euro games. Even though we've only put out historical and war games, when we get together with our group, all our designers, most of them are engineers, physicists, we're a really nerdy group. We don't play war games. We love playing Euro games or sci-fi games or fantasy games. So all the war games out there were very old school, 70s, 80s, looking up charts, blah, waiting till your buddy did his turn while you're going to the refrigerator and watching an old episode of Hogan's Heroes till it's your turn again. So what we did is we tried to interact and really bring in that more modern gameplay, very fast interaction, very live tactics that are relevant even today, not some tactics that just didn't make sense. And then also on top of that, we really tried to hike up the graphics and make the game look incredible.
Right, and it has very high quality components.
Big counters.
No offense to some of these older games, but the counters, they people use tweezers to pick them up, and they're thin and didn't look good.
And they're still made this way. And I'm like, haven't they learned anything? But that game, which is now 6 years old, we still sell between 300 and 400 copies a month. It doesn't end. We reprint every year that old game.
Well, that's a good thing. And then you've made several sequels to the game and variants.
Yes, we have not come out with. We came out with Awakening the Bear, and then we did Storms of Steel, all printed here in America, and then we did Price of Honor. And we haven't really come out with a new game in the series in about 3.5 years. Shame on us.
This sounds like a lead-in.
But yes, we've been working very hard. We came up with an incredible solo system that we promised everybody we were going to ship in December 2012. So we were ready to ship.
According to Kickstarter age, that's on time.
That's on time. Well, we didn't take anybody's money except for one guy. If the one guy out there who's online always complaining that he prepaid for his copy 18 years ago, I apologize to you. But I did talk to your wife, and I got you out of some hot pickles there on the side, so you owe me back.
Okay, so you started out with Conflict of Heroes.
Yes.
And then you moved into some other games. You made some other games, but it seems like the model of your company is historical.
Yes, what we did is I started Academy Games to do educational games for the gaming market. So our first games that I designed were Short Circuit, which was a game on electricity and circuitry and everything, fun game, battery in the middle, you're putting circuits together with capacitors and diodes, and when the bulb went off, the theoretical bulb, if your circuit was completed to one of the players where they were sitting, they were short-circuited out.
Right.
And the last man standing won. But I found out when I was looking in the gaming market, it is very difficult to get into the school market because it's so fragmented. So then we looked around and saw what other, let's say, parts of the market, gaming market, did we see were open, were more blue ocean, where we could really make an impact easily and make a name for ourselves. And that's when we came up with the wargaming market. So really that was my second choice, but it worked out well for us.
So the school market, and I want to get back to that because
Yep.
there's a lot of things to talk. But let's take a moment here to talk about your biggest game that for a while, which is the Freedom, the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
Which was a game that is a theme that is tough to talk about and deal with,
Yeah.
and you made a game about it, which initially might sound off-putting. And so one of our listeners wanted to know, like, where'd the idea come from? And was it hard to pitch the idea of the game due to the slavery topic?
Well, it was very, very difficult because I'd already taken online when we came out with Conflict of Heroes, which was a game really, the first one between Russians and Germans. Myself being German citizen, growing up in South America, I was called so many derogatory names, which are okay to say in America, but if you said them anywhere else in the world, people go, how can you say that? And it was really tough. So we were very, very sensitive to coming out with other games. We've had some great games like Mark Assad, a wonderful game that we were going to publish on the French Underground Railroad that we then decided at this time were still a little too risky. So we've had a lot of games that were very far developed along by some great designers that we didn't want to do. But then I met Brian Mayer,
Right, the designer of the game.
designer of Freedom, and I met him at a convention where people show their prototypes, a spiel, whatever they're called. What are they called? Where people
Protospiel?
Protospiel. And I loved the game, and it took us another 2 years with him to develop it to the stage where we felt it was good for the market. And then we worked and worked and worked to get the wording right. We took hits on the market from very famous authors about the period, saying that we were portraying this the standard way the history books were teaching it, but that's not really what happened. And these were usually some African-American authors and all that who were very frustrated with a lot of the open, current historical teaching methods. So we were very sensitive to this, took all their input into account. Even the cover of the game, we had Stephen Pashal, who does most of our artwork out of Hawaii. Throw a shout out to Steve. Incredible. Check out StephenPashal.com, his artwork. He does our wargame artwork, and all the rest of his artwork is just beautiful sceneries, people from around the world. He's a Baha'ist, a total pacifist. But for us, he makes these really cool historical game covers. But he had to paint 4 different covers till we felt we got a cover that represented the desperation of the time, the plight of the people, but still their self-worth and self-motivation and the self-motivation and strength it took to do what they did, which was, in their own way, just breaking out of slavery, out of a place where they knew maybe 5 square miles of the world, never saw National Geographic, were grown up and just brought up to think one way, listen to what the master says, and throw that all off and just head out to the unknown. I mean, to do that is just unimaginable for a lot of us today, but slavery is still so rampant in the world. So anyway, it was a big risk for us. But then it turned into a big hit, and our next one, we have the next game in the series coming up pretty soon. which will be about, again, the French resistance and underground. And now I'm very nervous again because a lot of people have this idea of what the French resistance and the underground was like, but they don't really know what happened. Right. And it was a very black-gray time and era.
Well, slavery is a very delicate subject in America.
Yes.
Do you think, I mean, I know that a few people, at least that I've heard of, have avoided playing the game because of that.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that if it is tough, you should stay away from the game, or do you think that you should go into the game and learn and embrace the concept of what happened?
Well, I believe people always have to learn what history is about because the most people, we have many African Americans in the inner schools, in the cities, playing this game. The kids love it, and they're learning about their history. Where our complaints, or our, most of our, not complaints, are people calling with their concerns are from white administrative people, because we've had now books written for teachers on the Underground Railroad, which will be veröffentlichen, wir werden es veröffentlichen. We will, this is my German coming through, I'm sorry, veröffentlichen. We will, when you come out with a new book and publish, which we're publishing, no.
Yeah.
Coming out and saying, here, this is available for you.
Okay, that's publishing. Or
introducing, anyway, veröffentlichen.
No, I got
I'm staring at Tom like a pigeon. Going,
I understood you. Okay, so
okay.
You have some books coming out, right?
Yes, and these are books for teachers and homeschool parents that have an entire week's teaching program in it with discussions how to bring the game into their learning of the time period, further topics to explore. And this book is wonderful, and we will be the events veröffentlichen in next month. And we also have another book on our 1775 game that was written, all ready to go, again, for teachers to use 1775 in the classroom, teaching about the American Revolution. Then also topics of discussion, how do you evaluate the kids, what they're learning. Wonderful books.
So these books are going to be available, you said in the next month.
Yes. And now they are. We're working with Rosen Publication, and they're going to be distributed to all the schools in the United States, so commercially. So finally, we got our foot into the school market like we wanted way at the beginning.
Well, this is really exciting in that regard, because you're bringing these games out with the different the themes, and I wanted to talk about that because of the historical themes in these games.
Mm-hmm.
The more historical you get, the less gamey it can get sometimes. For instance, if you go back to some of these older war games or historical games, they'll have you roll on a chart somewhere to see how much of the noodles came in for the troops and things like that, right?
God.
So where do you draw that line where you say, hey, this is a game not completely historical, but at the same time don't rinse out so much of the theme that there's the game means nothing?
The designers and I, we sit down, we build the engine first. The engine is the most important thing. And then we put the tablecloth over the engine. Mm-hmm. So we know what kind of game we want, and then we will build an engine towards that. But the engine has to be very solid, and then we can put our different tablecloths over it. So, for example, we came out with the 1775 with Jeff Stahl and Bo Beckett. Right. 1812, 1775. Now I've been, as you see here, the map, we're working on our Viking invasions of England. People can kind of see it in delayed.
Well, it will be up there. Okay. So.
This is Vikings Invasion of England. This is a wonderful final copy of our hard. Look how stiff our board is. I'm kidding. We printed at Staples last week. Anyway, this is going to be based on the same series, but again, a 5% change in the rules, like between 1812 and 1775. That makes this game feel totally different again. Very cool. Two players play as a team. The Norsemen, which are the Vikings, people going Viking, the Berserkers, and then the other players play the Housecarls and the Thanes of England, and it is a blast. Big difference is now the Vikings invade with armies that can attack, move several times. A little twist in the game, wonderful, and you can see it goes all the way up. There's about another 5 feet below this of different countries. Maybe not. Oh, wrong game.
Okay, so this is in that same series as the 1812...
1775,
with the dice and the...
Yes.
Do you have a name for that series?
Oh, the American ones are Birth of America. This is going to be part of our Birth of Europe series.
Okay.
We also have in development for this game the Moorish Invasions. A game that's almost done incredible is the Fall of Spain. Huge map from Tierra del Fuego in southern South America, going up the coast of South America, Central America, the Caribbean, Mexico, California, Florida. Huge map. The players play 2 Spanish players against the freedom fighters. You have the thousands of Irishmen coming in. I didn't know how many Irish mercenaries fought for the freedom of South America.
No, I didn't know that either.
I know. People play it and learn something. But it is incredible. But the little twist in this game is the Spanish work together, win together. The rebellion all play and work together like all the other games. But at the end, only one of them can win. And that's when the backstabbing started, like in real life in South America. So it's going to be a wonderful game. We have some great games coming out in that series, too.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit. You have some games here you mentioned.
Yes.
So the French Resistance game, what's the name of that one?
Marquesade.
Okay, and that's coming out when-ish?
It's in development right now. I'm not going to give... I shouldn't even mention it because now everybody's going to be PO'd. Let me tell some of the other games that are like at the print already.
Well, let's talk about those. Okay, what's at the print?
Right. So the French Resistance game really doesn't exist yet.
All right. You didn't hear about it.
Yeah, the files are put away. We have our solo expansion is at the printer. It is at the printer, people. Trust me. Then we also have an incredible firefight generator expansion that Gunther developed. It is a game in itself. People are vying and back and forth, setting up the battlefield, what units, what the weather conditions are. Incredible game. Then already is Guadalcanal. Everything's ready on that, but the expansion for Guadalcanal, which is the Army expansion, because Guadalcanal will be the Marine Corps, from the Marine Corps and the Japanese side of things, and it will be till November of the year when in Guadalcanal, and then the expansion is going to be the Army role from November through December. So we're doing a whole expansion for free for people who pre-order. But what's so cool about this game is it's our old Conflict of Heroes, but now we added Bushido, the face. So the Japanese not only are playing like the old Conflict of Heroes, but now they also is this whole concept of Bushido, and if they are following orders the way they're told, even though it makes no sense, and are useless charges at the enemy, etc., etc. Because why were they so effective? The Bushido. So now the Japanese have the Bushido code. Also, both sides have their own hit counters. The Japanese now, when you get a hit counter, it may be a fake hit counter. Really cool. Also, Storm to Steel 2nd Edition. Everything's been done. We got the maps last week, final maps. Incredible. The artwork, phenomenal. So those are both going to the printer at the same time and will be available this fall.
Is the Viking game also a don't think about it for now game?
No. We're all the artwork was done. Got it last week. The cards, everything looks incredible. We have Mare Nostrum is going to be going on Kickstarter.
Wait, the old one?
Yeah, we totally redid Mare Nostrum. The old one was just a combat game. Now Mare Nostrum, you can win through politics, through religion, through trade, through building the great wonders of the world. It is awesome. I kept mum about that because I didn't want people asking us a lot of questions.
So this is Mare Nostrum, which was originally produced by...
I don't know, years ago, like in the 90s.
Yeah, the company. Well, the company that came out with it was out of business. They came out with the game, and there was an expansion, Mythology.
Yes.
Which seems a little odd with because you're historicals.
Yeah.
Is the Mythology dead now?
No, the Mythology isn't in the first game. It'll be expansions.
Okay, you will have that.
Yes.
And if I remember from Mare Nostrum, there's a lot of trading involved.
Yes.
Is that still a key component to the game?
It's a very key component, but we made some big twists in the game. So now it is no longer... The trading is very important, but also the resources and the different territories you're taking over are not as a military goal often, if that's the route you're going, but more of a trade, or sending out the religion with your temples you're building, trying to convert things like that. So it's very cool. The map is huge, mounted map, beautiful, new done. we are going on Kickstarter with that in 4 weeks.
Well, let's pause for a moment and talk about Kickstarter.
Okay.
Because you didn't use Kickstarter initially.
No, I did not.
So what prompted you to go to Kickstarter?
People developed the internet a few years ago, and Kickstarter started. We said, holy crap, finally a publishing company can actually make some money. Because for a publishing company, that's why publishing companies come and go.
Right.
Because the market is brutal. I mean, if you're buying a game for $10, we as a publisher only get $32.50 a game for a game that sells for $10. Out of that 32% of the MSRP manufacturer's retail sales price, that $3.20 that we get has to pay for all the development costs, the printing costs, the shipping costs, the royalty costs, keeping the electricity on. It is tough. So we have to pay all this inventory ahead of time. We ship it out. We hope the dealers pay us. I've had dealers screw me left. I have some guy in England now. It's been 6 months. They won't pay us. They're a good company. Why don't they pay us? They must be in financial. It's horrible. So even then, we don't get our meager 32% even. Mm-hmm. Then we have inventory sitting. You hope it sells. It's a risk. And all of a sudden, ta-da, Kickstarter starts. Because the old way, our money's tied up in inventory. We can't develop the new games. And as people know, we had a slow section in bringing out new games. This year, we have Mare Nostrum coming out. We have the 2 expansions coming out. We have the Vikings games coming out. We have Storms of Steel and Guadalcanal coming out. We have some other very cool games I haven't told anybody about. I can show you the maps right there. The old Panzergruppe Guderian, the Jim Dunnigan classic. We totally redid it, got rid of all the old charts, it is almost done. We're calling it Guderian's Harvest. All the old things where the Russian counters, you don't know what they are. We have made it a fun game that anybody want to play. Certain people are turned off by a war game, but we took these old games, made them fast, interactive, multiplayer, over in an hour if you want to play it quickly, or 2 hours if you want to play a full campaign. Teach anybody in 2 minutes, and they look phenomenal. I have the maps there I can show you later on.
Well, this is a little mind-boggling in a sense, because for a while you were coming out with a game a year,
right?
And now you're talking like game.
Kickstarter allows us, because it brings us the money in ahead of time, and we get a bigger percentage than 32% of MSRP, plus we get it ahead of time instead of up to 9 months after we print. So it is a tough market without Kickstarter, in my opinion. Now, a company that is very established, well, they've got dozens of games already out, and they have the money from these dozens of games coming in. But for new companies like ours, it was very difficult. And I'm a numbers guy. To me, it's all numbers. My background is engineering, then got heavy into finance with businesses. So it all comes down to numbers. But now we are hiring. Ashley is starting. Ashley, just throw you out a shout. Ashley's starting on Monday. Mm-hmm. Incredible gamer. Incredible. She knows games and procedures and everything. She's a biologist, has been working the pharmaceutical markets now for years. Says, I'm sick of chemical compounding and all that. I love games. She's starting with us on Monday. We've got other guys, very experienced people, starting with us. Now we've hit that hump where we have enough money to get more games out to bring in more money. The thing is, we got to keep the quality up. That's why we're sometimes slow.
Well, speaking of Kickstarter, this game was on Kickstarter last year, right? Thief.
Yes, Thief, okay. France 1429. And
now this game is a period that I would imagine, could just be me, who doesn't know as much about this period of history. So what's it like working on a period of history that is more of an obscure, maybe it's not obscure, but I felt like it was.
Listen, we did the Polish-Soviet War of 1920. That's obscure. This is wonderful. Everybody plays the head of a French family. And you need 3 victory points to win. How do you do those? By getting titles. You're getting royal and ecclesiastical titles. Ecclesiastical titles, church titles. And you need 3 victory points to win alone, which is very difficult in this game. So what you do is you can marry off your kids to another player's kids. And now you're allied. And you're allied for the game. You're stuck. You cannot get out of that alliance. You can never win alone anymore. You win together. Unless your spouse dies. and there are thousands of ways to have your spouse die. And it is just a game of...
Sounds joyful.
It is a diplomacy game. It is hilarious. And this is a real storytelling game. If you go on Board Game Geek and see some of the reviews out there, people, they write whole pages of their game because they're stories, because you're trying to get the family titles in, going the ecclesiastical route, getting the bishop titles, and then the cardinals, and then needing the votes from other people to get the election of pope title into your family or your alliance, and then the pope playing games, and bishops and cardinals doing tithes on other people's areas and taking all their mill income for the good of the church. It is just a fun game because a story evolves, and every time it's a little different.
All right, well, that's out now.
That is
Came
out, yes.
Near the end of last year, I believe.
It hit the stores last month.
Last month.
Yes.
All right.
So we put quite a delay because our Kickstarter people we support long term, get them the games first, wait a few months, and then the stores get them. Unless it's stores who pre-ordered and support us through Kickstarter.
Okay, so you're pretty set with historical. Would you ever think about veering off into something that's not?
Oh, we have yes. We have almost all done. Artwork's done. Midnight Station. Cooperative game in space. A meteor shower has hit, and it has created rifts in the station. Air is escaping. The players, all the computers are down. The players are scrambling, get the computers back up, close vacuum seals, and the spacesuits are degrading when they're in this atmosphere where it's broken out to the outside. Die Spalten, Spalten, the cracks in the outside.
Okay. No, that sounds right. Cracks in the outside, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a word for it in English, though.
Oh.
It's
I
horrible.
would. Your English is flawless, so I'm not going to.
The problem is we speak almost everybody in our company in Ohio. We speak German, and then we have a lot of German partners, and then I'm trying to learn Spanish again. So, necesito aprender mi español, and now I'm learning où est la toilette. I know the grammar is bad, but I'm trying to learn French. So, all these languages. So my brain isn't. I'm not that smart that I can keep it aside, but. And then we have Bug Planet, which is like a rip-roaring worker placement game. And as people are developing their minds on the planet, all of a sudden they awaken these bugs living inside the planet. And they're just coming and streaming at you. And you're trying to figure out, oh my God, do we have to get up our defenses? Do we get them, shoot them down? Do we try to negotiate with them? Do we try to negotiate with other people to help each other? Or just mine as much as we can get out? Very cool one. And then we have a huge thing we've been working on, which I can't tell anybody about yet.
Oh, you've told us about so many games as it is.
We have so much cool stuff coming out, and the flow's going now because we have now employed great people. And Academy Games, I think in the next 2 years, people are going to see a big shift in our company.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate you coming
Thank
on
you.
and telling us about these games. Folks, check them out. There's lots of stuff coming in the future from Academy. Thanks so much. Folks, I'm going to put you on mute just for a second, and then we may or may not have another designer. He wants to say something.
I got it. We were playing last night, 3 a.m, the funniest game, a little game called Submarine. We were laughing our butt. We had guys who were usually stoic. These old guys that never...
I've met many, yes.
Yes. Giggling like little girls. So if you get the game, it's not available in America, I don't think.
Who's the publisher?
It's a little game out of Japan. There are no rules. It's called Submarine.
There's no rules?
Yeah, and it's the stupidest little game. We were laughing our tails off.
Okay, thanks.
I don't even think it's in there.
I'm not seeing it.
So anyway, that was a fun game. The new Star Wars game. Awesome game. As I say, we hardly
Imperial
play
Assault?
Imperial Assault. We have a lot of
yeah.
fun. But it isn't that the game's so great, it's who you play with. You got to be with other people because, unfortunately, I kept on shooting my ally in the back. And they told me that wasn't legal. But we said, you know what, I'm a bad shot. He didn't give me a beer last night. So, anyway,
Alrighty, well,
Okay,
thank you.
So I had to put in plug for some reason.
No problem. Now we're going back on mute for a moment. Folks, with me now, hooray!
Hooray.
It's Eric Lang,
Hi.
who has decided to come out of retirement from hiding
Yep.
and onto the show.
Yep. I avoided you too long.
Now, well, that's because, though, you've been playtesting like mad here.
Yeah. Well, so I've been actually working on my video game gig all morning. We're at crunch time, so I had to do. Thank you, sir. I've had to do a. Sorry, I'm looking at myself.
Yes, you'll laugh and then, yes. Don't look.
Okay. I've been working on my video game project. I'm working on a digital TCG during the day called Duelist, and we're on crunch time for beta. It just happened to coincide with the gathering, so I've been working most of the day. But at night, I'm doing playtesting.
So a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And for those of you joining and may not know, this is Eric Lang, who has designed many games, especially lately. It seems in the last 4 or 5 years, you've really increased the output of games.
So, yeah, it's true. Well, yes, but it's also a kind of an optical illusion, too. So I've only done in the last 2 years about 3 to 5 games in the last 2 years. It's just that they all come out at the same time. So it looks like, you see a whole bunch of games at once, and you're like, this Eric Lang guy makes 1 million games. And it's just 3 or 5 games at once. And then there'll be a little gulf, and then there'll be another 3 to 5 games, because everybody releases games at the same time.
All right, folks, if you have questions for him, you can ask here, and we'll ask a few of those questions to him. But I want to start out by talking, of course, about my favorite thing to talk about, which is Dice Masters.
Dice Masters, yes.
Now, Dice Masters was a huge splash last year. It came out, and the Marvel license didn't hurt it at all.
Not a bit, nope.
Except the West Coast shipping may have hurt it a bit, as there was problems getting it out there. But finally, that hurdle was overcome. Uncanny X-Men came out, and then we saw the Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that's your babies. You said you really liked the Dungeons and Dragons theme.
Yep.
It was inspirational to you.
So I grew up on Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
It was D&D 2nd edition that made me a gamer back in 1989. That was the. I mean, I've always played games. I've always played board games, but I remember it like it was yesterday. The first session of D&D I played with a friend of mine and his roommates, and I just, in one night, after playing that session, I was a gamer forever, and I've been playing it. I played D&D for at least 3 years after that, and just playing all these cool different campaigns, designing games. I designed like 6 role-playing games in that time. And not until Magic came out did I want to decide to do this professionally, like 10 years later. But D&D is my, DNA. So that's not a good sign for DNA.
No, that's more of a drug thing. That's what I thought was your addiction. But so when designing this Dice Masters game, you were able to pull from this universe. What was that like? And were you worried about getting it right and all that?
Oh yeah. So Mike and I were we design like the majority of the sets together, and we usually start it off with a big epic Skype session. Where we come together with all the ideas that we've got. It feels like a band meeting almost, right? Like, what songs you got? And we will put them together. With D&D, we actually got an advanced copy of the Monster Manual for 5th edition to look through because, a big chunk of D&D was monsters, right? Cool monsters. I actually made it a personal note that I didn't want to look at any books for the first meeting. I'd want to do everything just from my head because my idea was that if there's anything that I could recall without having looked at anything, top level recall would be something that would be monsters that everybody would know about. So I believe I looked at the book maybe twice, but I just went all entirely from memory. And Mike did mostly too. Mike was he's a more diligent reader than I am anyway, but he wanted to make sure we got a bunch of 5th edition stuff. You'll probably notice a lot of 2nd edition D&D throwbacks in the game. Everything that's in there is in 5th edition, but it's a lot of the stuff I grew up on.
Well, we saw some dragons, and a lot of dragons, actually.
Yep.
So it's like there's like really exciting stuff. Some of the most iconic things, the gelatinous cube, and...
Walk for your lives! Yep.
So...
actually, the I haven't seen any comments about the little Easter egg I threw in there. There's the rare, I believe, limited wish. Has the double star effect is and also destroy Tarrasque. Because
I wonder what that...
Because in D&D, back in the day, the Tarrasque was such an amazingly awesome, powerful monster that even after you killed it, you needed a wish to make it stay dead.
Oh, see, I thought that seems like a very odd focus thing on the card.
It was total callback. So there's going to be in every D&D set we do. There's going to be lots of these little things.
Okay, all right. So I guess I should ask that. With working with D&D and then working with Marvel, you're working with licenses, and then you also work with Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
the Star Wars card game and things. What is that like? Is there a license that's harder to work with because of the restrictions?
Yep.
Are there licenses that just bring you joy? I'm assuming you like working with all of them.
Right. Well, so I'm in a very blessed position right now that I pretty much get to choose what I work on. Mm-hmm. So I only work on either licenses that I love or on original IPs that I'm really crazy about. So I had a bucket list about 8 years ago or so of every awesome license I want to work on, and after D&D, that was it. I fulfilled one exception, which I can't talk about, but with one exception, I've hit every single license on that list. And so I love every single license that we're working on. Some of them are childhood fanboy loves. Some of them are slightly more grown-up loves. D&D was a mid-period love of mine. Some licenses are definitely harder than others, partially because the licensor has more restrictions, and they're all different. Every single one of them, every licensor has different, very specific ideas of what they want to see in the game or what they don't want to see, and some of them are on tighter deadlines than others, and some of them are I like restrictions. I actually prefer somebody's will say to me, we want you to design inside this box and be as creative as you can in this box. That's great for me, rather than just do whatever you want. It's cool.
All right. Some questions from the people watching. What's your favorite team from Chaos Ball?
Hey, my favorite team from Chaos Ball? The Ninjas.
I was just thinking about the Ninjas. And, my favorite team is the Lycanthropes.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Of course. I don't want to choose between Runner and Bruiser.
That's right. Well, one of the things that's interesting here is that a lot of the things you're working with lately, many of them work with miniatures.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, especially working with Core Mini or not. Right. And we saw Arcadia Quest with the little chibi miniatures and then the very detailed miniatures. And then you got some really amazing miniatures in your upcoming games.
Oh, Blood Rage, yeah.
Blood Rage.
Oh, my God.
That's some of the best miniatures I've ever seen.
Me too.
What's it like? Do you prefer that, the miniature experience, the pieces?
It's where I am.
Because I just saw you go crazy over a little bit of miniatures here.
I love toys, right? Deep down, I'm 10, right? That's how it goes. I love toys, and I love really good-looking toys. So,
watch the table; it bangs the mic. Go ahead. Anyways,
Is
you
this
love
okay?
toys.
Is
Yeah,
this
that's
okay?
fine.
Okay. I'm a gamer. I got to test. I love toys. So yes, I haven't always worked on games with lots of cool miniatures. So getting to work on those in the last few years, I love it. I love it. So I've got, I don't know, 6 or 7 games in the next few years that are all focused on really, really cool minis and toys. I'm trying to cover as many different themes as I can, but I've got a few in a row now, with like raw, big, epic, grim, dark monsters and stuff, which I like because I grew up on GW stuff. But I'm also going to be doing, I love Arcadia Quest, the little cute cheapies, and I have a game coming up in a year and a half with 15 little pandas that come in the box, because everybody knows I'm obsessed with pandas.
It's a good thing to be obsessed with, I guess.
I guess.
What can we expect from your Titan series game? I think you're in the first 3, aren't you?
No, I'm in the second 3.
You're in the middle.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it.
Well, you can maybe talk about the design process, what your thoughts are going into that.
So it's an interesting point right now where, like every designer, I have I had a notebook full of ideas. I had up 150 ideas or so of either ideas for games, half-finished games, fully finished games I haven't bothered playtesting. And a year ago, after Essen last year, I hit a little slight burnout point. I think I walked around around Essen, and the big convention in Germany. I looked at games. I felt a little bored, and I was like, "That's crazy. There's so many good games out. I should not be bored."
Right.
So the problem was me, not with where I was. So I don't know what hit me. I went home and I deleted everything. All of my half-finished games, all my files, I deleted them from my computer, from my backups, threw away all the.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter that you did it. You said it was freeing.
It was extremely freeing. Nothing, no crutch. So because I didn't want to ever get to a point where somebody's like, "Hey, Eric, you got a game?" And I'm like, "Yes, sure. Here's a game from my computer that I've not looked at or anything." So I only want to work on stuff that I'm totally passionate about. And so with the Titan series, that's going to be probably the first of these new games of mine. It's probably not what you're not going to recognize it based on if you know my Fantasy Flight work. It's very, very family oriented, very, very simple, quirky and fun. I don't like I'm not a big fan of abstracts, and I'm not a big fan of efficiency engine games. I like games with a soul. Wow, I said that out loud.
No, that's okay. I've been saying it for many years. Continue.
Well, I mean, I respect those, right? But I like games that have some kind of quirk or some kind of something that where the voice of the designer comes through. And so it'll be one of those games. Surprise, surprise! It'll probably involve lots of dice.
Well, speaking of dice, someone here wants to know how the idea of Dice Masters /Quarriors came to you and Mike.
So Mike called me one day. I remember this very clearly. Mike called me about, I don't know, was it 5 years ago at this point? He had just finished working on Thunderstone, and I was working on a whole bunch of deck building things because we were both mesmerized by Dominion,
right?
As was everybody else on the planet. And Mike called me and said, it was a quippy phrase, and I can't recall it, but he said, "What do you think about Dominion with dice?" I was like, "Yes, yes," and we literally designed half of it on the phone. And then I flew down to Seattle the week later, and we worked on the following week. We just finished the game. We did everything. That game just, some games just flow. It's just magic, and Quarriors was one of those games. I mean, we play tested it arduously for months and months and months, but the first nugget of it came within 48 hours.
Well, then how did Dice Masters come out of that?
Dice Masters, so me personally, I wanted, when I saw the Quarriors engine, I actually wanted it to be a battle game with in combat decisions and stuff, but we decided that it was not the right call for Quarriors. We wanted to be a game that was a little bit more mass market, not as many super agonizing decisions or anything like that. We wanted the game to be focused on fun, and so what we did for Quarriors is exactly right for Quarriors. So Marvel was the game I wanted to play because I like beating each other up with dice.
I think that's a good thing.
Me too. And so we didn't know about the license or anything. I just wanted to make a combat game. And WizKids called us. I was at a game store looking at games at one point. I got a call from Justin at WizKids. He said, "We got Marvel." And I was like, done. That was it. That was it, right? We talked to Mike, and the same thing, right? We were like, all right, what are we going to do with this? We're not redoing Warriors. We're going to do this battle game that we really wanted to do. And I think it was almost exactly the same thing. Like the first 48 hours, boom, there you go. Because I had a laundry list of things I needed to be in the game, and I remember Mike came up with what we call it the carryover mechanic, which is the prep area thing, and that was as soon as that happened, boom, game was done.
Now, I mean, is that how, when you design, is that a normal thing, or do games slowly? I mean, do you usually do most of the game at the beginning and then?
I do a lot, yeah. So a lot of the games I come up with, the first, I call it the easy 80%, right? The getting it almost to playable, where I know generally what the play pattern is going to be, what mix of mechanics are going to make it come together. I usually do that really, really quickly, because if there's no magic at the beginning of the process, then if I'm not super, super excited about it, then I don't care. If I have to struggle to come up with the early part of a game, then I just usually either throw it away or put it on the shelf with those other 150 games that went away.
Now, a lot of your games have interesting mechanisms, and you use some of the stuff from some games and some of the others. Is there any particular cool thing that you've done that you're really proud of?
Well, I mean, I'm super proud of Dice Masters, right?
But I mean, like, is there a part of that you're like, oh, that's a really cool idea that we came up with?
I really like the carryover mechanic that Mike came up with. So I like the so I really, really like the flow of cards in Chaos Ball. It's not one mechanic, but I like the way in which cards flow into your hand, flow into and out of your hand, using dead cards on the board to restrict your play, drawing up to full and getting to play one tactic. I like that general flow. It's really, really cool. Of course, but in my opinion, it turns out that was a lot for people who are used to playing dice-based sports games. That was a pretty big transition to make, which I still love it though. I think it's one of my favorite mechanics. I love. I super, super, super love how the again, it's not just one mechanic, but I love how in XCOM, I love how I'm calling it the spotlight mechanic. That the XCOM works in half in real time. The app calls on somebody, make a decision that everybody cares about and everybody's going to argue with you about, but you've got to make it in 2 seconds. So it just goes spotlight to spotlight to spotlight. And actually the back end of XCOM is designed so that as much as possible to interweave those choices so that choices with dependencies on each other will come just a little bit too fast so that every point of that was to give people an excuse to argue.
Now, when you did XCOM, did you start with the idea like, hey, we're going to integrate the phone and things, or did that come later? Were you told to do that?
So yes, and yes. So I've been I have a really good relationship with Fantasy Flight, and I go down a couple times every year, and we talk about what kind of games we want to do in the future. So I've been telling them for a long time I'm interested in integrating stuff with an app, and they're very much so as well. And one day, we have this meeting every year where Chris Peterson will tell hey, we got the following projects. You're not working on anything right now. What's interesting to you? And I remember Star Wars Armada was one of those. Right, and I was like, oh, Star Wars Armada is so cool. I just worked on the card game though. And then he was like, and we got XCOM with I was like, done. I don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
Right. XCOM
is just one of those licenses. Was that on your bucket list?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like done. I was like, all right, well, we want to do an app. I'm like, what? Right. I'm like, I don't remember. After that, he turned into the teacher of a Charlie Brown cartoon, right? Wah, 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 wah. I'm like, that's all I could see the game right there, just taking place, taking shape. And we simultaneously, so I had a vision for it, in those first 10 seconds he told me about it, and he apparently had a vision for it as well, and they were exactly the same.
Well, that's good, right? Then.
We don't want to do the ground combat game. We got Gears of War already. We want to do the big overview game. And then I was like, I don't know why. I think I blurted out in the room. It was like, the West Wing. I was like, what? I was like, the West Wing. So those scenes in the West Wing TV show when they're in the Situation Room and they're there's some horrible dramatic event going on, usually, unfortunately, in the Middle East, but that's and they're and all these commanders-in-chief have to make the commanders-in-chief, all the secretaries of blah 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 have to make these decisions with limited information that cost people's lives about the world, and they're arguing all the time until somebody's got to make a decision. right? The president in that case. But I was like, I want to make a game that puts people in that position, right? I want you to feel like you're in that room, and then when you're done, you're like, oh God, glad I don't have that job.
Now, you designed this with the app, and it works well, and it's been getting some praise over the past year.
Scared the heck out of me, yeah.
Would you do it again with an app, or are you interested in working with them more?
I am currently working on 2 more designs that are app dependent. I actually had like 5 or 6. Like, as I was developing XCOM, I was like, oh, I want to do this too. Oh, I want to do this too. So I put those aside. Actually, the first pitch I had for XCOM was slightly different from what's published right now. And then I remember that FFG's like, it's not quite right for this. And I agreed it wasn't right. But I was like, but it's right for a different game. And so that definitely working on that. I have one that I've been actually talking to the guys at Plaid Hat about that they're interested in. And I don't know, this is one of those games that I don't know if it's a game or an art piece, but it's really interesting. It's like nothing else I've done before, like nothing else I've actually seen, but it requires an app.
Now, what would be your response, since you're designing with apps, to someone who says, I don't like the idea of electronic in my game, or they'll say, oh, it's going to be outdated, the app in 10 years, and this is just a fad? What would be your response as a designer?
I mean, that's a perfectly valid opinion. I don't agree. Like, for me, the market's in an interesting place right now where all I care about, like, I can only speak for myself, right? I'm not going to pretend to know everybody's wishes, but like there are so many good games out right now that I don't even have time to play them all. I don't even have time to play the games I want to play.
Right.
So it doesn't bother me. Like, I don't even care if somebody gave me a game that was disposable, right? Like when I saw Risk Legacy, I was like, great. I play it 17 times. I'm going to have 17 awesome games, and then I'm going to put it away. Right. But I mean, to me, 17 awesome games for $60, I think, $70, that is way more entertainment than I would have gotten taking the family out to the movies. And even then, you can still play it afterwards. So that kind of stuff doesn't bother me at all. I still play XCOM. I still have a little floppy disk with XCOM 1 on it. Right? I could play it if I wanted to. So I'm not worried about...
I have played it recently in years. It's
right?
Crazy. Yeah, it's
so, like, I'm not... In our lifetime, I don't think we're going to have to worry about digital stuff going, like, completely off the wayside. There's emulators. There's all that stuff. Will the game die when the company stops supporting it? It is an issue. It is a legitimate concern. I've never, ever worked with a company that is more diligently supportive of their product than FFG. So, like, I mean, I trust them. So... They'll get my dollar vote even on the stuff I don't work on. So that's all I can say.
No. You mentioned the Risk Legacy. Have you ever thought about delving into that genre?
Well, let me tell you a story. So AEG just announced a game called Epic Adventure at the Gamma Trade Show. That is my game. It is a game inspired very much by Rob's vision. It's a card game that you play where you play a full campaign of. I don't know how much I should spoil, but it is the game that I wanted to play. It's basically D&D for people with short attention spans like me, and where you get to play, like, get these awesome adventures that each impact each other permanently and change the entire concept of the game. And the goal of the game, the meta goal and the goal, is to customize your game as you go and end up with the most perfect, awesome story that you guys collaboratively have come together with. So yeah, I'm definitely working on that. I've been working on it for years. It just took a while in development.
Wow. So, I mean, do you ever get caught up? You have games that are ripe for expansions. In fact, it's hard for me to think of any games that you designed that can have expansions, right?
Yep.
Does that expansion time... Does that ever, like, take up the time of new games? You're like, oh, I wish I could stop working on these and just start on new stuff?
Well, so it used to. Now I'll tell you, when it comes time to work on a Dice Master set, I'm like, I'm like back into my comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually treasure the time I get to work on expansions. Like, we're just finishing working on an Arcadia Quest, major Arcadia Quest expansion. Oh my god, it's so good! It's so good.
I've seen some of the miniatures for that. I think.
You did? There's a couple of surprises in there that I don't think you've seen.
Okay, I can wait.
Yeah, no, I can't spoil them. But there's one little nugget in there that I think is Well, it's the cutest thing I've ever done, and it's
more so than the 8 Panda game.
Well, that's coming in a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
Right? I will out cute, but and I worked on that with a team. So a lot of the games that I do with publishers, there's a team of really, really talented guys working on it, and so when it comes to expansions, I very rarely work on them by myself. I'm working on them with a team, with Arcadia Quest, I don't know what they call me the design overlord, which is such a ridiculously pretentious name, but like I'm the
it's on his badge though. I mean,
I'm like, look at me, I'm important. I'm still the lead designer, but they do a lot of the content, and they've gotten so good at emulating my style for that game that like there's several points I look at these cards, I'm like, yep, awesome, my work is done. Right.
Well, this happens especially with living card games.
Yes,
because you can't
oversee
no. every card that goes in those.
No.
I would imagine that you're not too involved with the Star Wars card game expansions.
Not as much anymore. So basically the newer the game, the more involved I am. Like when I turn in LCG to Fantasy Flight, I usually have a year or so's worth of cards. So and they're not always necessarily this is a set, but here's a bunch of really cool hooks for expansions, and then they put them in the file and they've got them to use as long as they want. And of course I'm in contact with them almost daily, so I'm always like, oh, here's I'll pitch them cool new ideas and stuff. But at this point, Eric Dahlman who's in charge of Star Wars, he knows the game better than I do at this point. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that guy's also ridiculous. He is a ridiculous Star Wars. He is an encyclopedic Star Wars. He can speak Wookiee. You're smiling.
No, there's not a real Wookiee language, is there?
I'm kidding.
Oh.
But he can speak that language. I can never remember the name of the language. Like some Star Wars fan I am, right? There's that language that looks like it looks a little bit like Korean.
I don't know what it's called.
He can speak it fluently, and now I'm not kidding about. It's ridiculous. So yeah, they don't need my flavor. They don't need my help. I've done all the obvious stuff.
We can't judge on that. All right. Let's see here. If you could, what do you design? What do you enjoy designing more, co-op or competitive games?
Yes, I mean I like both. I like almost every type of in every genre of game, in every style of game, there's something in it that I love. There's very few that I don't like. I don't like abstracts very much, so that's probably about the only type I will never design. Even then, I've just thought of one.
Well, I don't think you've made a party game, have you?
I love party games, and I actually have 2 in the works right now.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I love
always
party
something.
Games. I mean, I'm not good at them yet, but I've got a couple that I really like. I actually have one that my wife actually came up with the original idea for by accident. We were like playing little silly games and like at dinner or something, and she came up with this idea. I was like, that's really cool, and I just took it and worked on it, and I put my name on it. But party games for sure. I like right now. I have a big love for co-op games because I didn't at first. I remember when Ragnar Knizia's Lord of the Rings came out at first, I was like, this is boring. Like,
it didn't have the theme integrated into it, I don't think, as well as it could have.
Well, in retrospect, now that I'm playing, I went back and played the game recently. I'm like, wow, it does do a really good job. I think it really does do a good job of
maybe I should go back and
capturing the underlying themes of Lord of the Rings, right? It doesn't capture the story bit like step by step, but it captures the theme of sacrifice and cooperation, and fellowship. Like, it really does. I was like, wow, you did a really good job of that. I'm the first to call out a game for not being thematic, but that one, yeah. Anyway, so I love co-op, and I love solving issues with co-op games that I see out there. With XCOM, I tried to do my version of solving the alpha game problem by making everybody an alpha gamer, and of course I tried to solve the problem of people like being able, well, with the timer. I mean, games have been done with timers before, but I want to make a game where instead of people just being totally harmonious all the time, like people they want people arguing, and when somebody's got the when the commander's got his app out, going like, "You have 10 seconds. You've got 10 seconds." Right? Everybody's like, "Oh my god, stop yelling at me!" Right? That's what I love that. Like, I want the co-op game where people are actually angry at each other, but we're on the same team.
Eric Lang causing division since 1998.
Since 1998. So, yeah, I love it.
Okay, so what's something that's coming out from you very soon that you'd want people to take a look at that we know about, I guess?
Okay, Blood Rage, of course. The Kickstarter just finished. Amazingly huge Kickstarter. That, I mean, I know it's Cool Mini or not. Their Kickstarters are always big, but Blood Rage is not a like 800,000 miniatures with 70 billion expansions. It's just a board game, and it has 2 expansions with it. But we got a lot of backers for it. I'm very happy. Very, very proud of that game. It's Vikings pillaging for glory. It's probably the best dudes on a map game I think I've ever done. And I'm like that game retired all of my other dudes on a map game design. So I'm done with that genre for a little while.
Even Chaos? Or you don't consider that dudes on the map?
Yeah, Chaos is interesting. Chaos is not really. It's a god game. I mean, in the truest sense. I might do another game like that, but I don't right now. No, I don't have any ideas, so don't ask. I don't. I will probably do another game like that, but that will be a little bit more focused on the what did I call it? First god problems.
That's all right. Well, you're I guess you're coining that phrase.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about the time we have for today. Wish we could talk longer because there's so much.
Did I hit everybody's questions? No.
Well, I think we got more. I mean, there's people asking about upcoming expansions, which you can't talk about.
Oh. Can't talk about it.
The Wookiee language is Shiriwook, or.
Oh my God! It's a language.
Well, there's the Wikipedia.
Haga Neagle 2001. You are awesome.
Okay, how about we'll do this last one. If you could go back and change anything about Chaos in the Old World, what would it be?
Oh, actually, I know exactly what that would be. Damn it. I mean, darn it. I'm sorry, I can't say. Just in case something may or may not.
Okay, fair enough. What about...
But I know exactly what I would change. Sorry.
Someone else there, the Quarriors digital, are we going to see expansions for that coming out eventually?
I don't actually know.
That would be a WizKids thing, probably.
Yeah, I don't actually know. I hope so, because I love it. I play it more, Quarriors more often on the iPad than I do live anymore.
I wonder if Dice Masters would work on the iPad.
It probably would. Dice Masters, I mean, that's the game I play more of than anything else as well, because I'm designing sets like crazy, but I'm also playing it just for fun. I'll play you, by the way. I actually have a D&D Yu-Gi-Oh team.
Yeah, we're setting this up for Dice Tower Con, remember?
Oh yeah,
that's
okay.
right.
All right.
The showdown.
All right, my challenge to you: no Marvel.
Can I use Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah. My team is Yu-Gi-Oh and D&D, nothing else.
All right, I'll try, but that's hard.
I know.
Can I have someone else build my team for me?
Sure. I'm net decking my team.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for coming on, Eric.
Thank you.
We're going to put you guys on mute. I have one more guest, and we'll be back in just a moment. Thank you,
Ciao.
sir.
Oh, we were muted then too?
Yeah, we were.
Oh my god, I said so many more illuminating things.
All right, well, we're not we're not muted now. Okay, folks, I have Chris Cieslik here from Asmadi Games.
Yes.
And I remember, I first went to a convention, it was Gen Con, I think, 3 years ago, and you had this really tiny booth, and you had Win, Lose, and Banana.
Win, Lose, or Banana.
And this newfangled game called Innovation.
Yeah, it was shiny and new back then.
Yeah, but it didn't look like much. And I remember specifically the guy who was there, I don't remember if it was you or one of your helpers, if you had helpers, and they were like, don't run, look at this and try it out. It has some really neat mechanisms, and they showed how the cards work, and my mind was blown because it looked so neat. What made you decide to start your own game company?
So I always wanted to make my own games, all the way back to elementary school. We made little board games on paper. They were terrible roll and move monster adventures. We played in the back corner in 4th grade. As I grew up, I wanted to make video games, and then turns out video games are really hard to make. So I went back to tabletop games after college.
Right.
And that was back when the whole Settlers craze started happening, and you were able to find board games that were compelling, better than the Monopoly and Risk that I played when we were kids, and the roll and move stuff. And with my math background, you could make a lot more interesting games. And so eventually I'm like, you know what? I could make games like this. And my parents had a bit of money left over that they let me start out the company with, so I was able to do that, and I'm very thankful for that. And so I went for it.
One of the things with your games, like with the recent Red 7 and with Innovation and things like that, I think we could say that they're kind of quirky. Mm-hmm. They're games that you didn't expect. They're not like mainstream games. Now, you have a more mainstream style game coming out with the Penny Press.
Yes.
But these other games are games like Innovation, for example, is a game that people love it or they hate it. There's not a lot of in between usually on that game. Is that kind of something you're looking for, like your niche?
I'd like more people to love it, but...
well, of course, I understand that you want people to like the games.
No, I think you can get into the pattern of trying to please everybody, and then you wind up diluting the game you're trying to make. And for me, I want to stick to whatever game we're trying to make. Mm-hmm. Red 7, for example, is a game that has really, really mass appeal. That's what the game is. It wasn't, a decision where we're like, we should try and make this appeal to everybody. We said, let's make a good game, and it happened to be a game that hits everybody. So I never come into the process with, how can we tweak this to hit every different market? It's, how do we make this the best game it can be? For Penny Press, which is, it's a gamer's game, but it's pretty light and easy to teach. It has a really nice theme.
Well, Penny Press is an unusual background, in a sense that it came from the...
Right.
What was that called?
The Cards Against Humanity Tabletop Deathmatch.
Right. This was a like a reality-type show that was held at Gen Con. This was Gen Con 2013, if I'm...
Yes.
Yep. Gen Con 2013, where they brought in all different people. They came, pitched their games, and the Penny Press one was one that caught your eye, and you decided to publish it.
Yep.
And
no, it worked out really well. Robert and Matt, the designers, were great, and I had actually met them before the deathmatch, and I had seen the game once, which is part of what helped me. I happened to be on the panel for that game, and I was able to tell the judges, because they went into the judging process blind back then. I was able to tell them some of the mechanical things about the game that they wouldn't have been able to get in a 10-minute pitch, because it takes a play or two to figure out what's going on with puzzling out little pieces and stuff.
Although it's not that complex of a game. It's pretty easy to get into. And a really cool theme.
Yep. A theme that doesn't get used very much. Newspapers is...
I only know one other game that's ever done it, and that was a couple decades ago.
Yeah, well, there's another one. Mayfair's got one coming out soon, too. Or maybe it's out, I'm not sure.
Now with Innovation, and you have the expansions to that, Innovation is a wildly crazy game all over the place.
Yeah.
How do you playtest these things to make sure they're balanced? Or
we playtest them lots. And the recent thing that I've been doing, and we started this back with the first Innovation expansion, Echoes, is we actually let fans download a print and play version of the game and print it out themselves and play it for free. And if they want to do that, great. It was a little harder a few years ago because technology for printing wasn't as great for getting good color stuff. But now it's really easy for somebody to go to their corner store or Arts Cow or any of those places, get a nice deck of a game. And tons of play testing is what you need in a chaotic game. And having lots of different fans out there playing it, all in their own different way and trying to break it in their own way, hugely valuable. For the new Carl Chudik game, Matainai, we did the print and play. We launched it maybe 3-4 weeks ago. We've already got a ton of feedback. It's all mostly positive.
Say that real carefully for people who don't know the game.
Matainai.
How do you spell that?
And I'm probably not saying it right. Mottainai.
Right, now this is a new game which
the
I think is like the third iteration of the Glory to Rome series. We saw Glory to Rome, then we saw Uchronia, and now we're seeing Motainai. and I played it, and you can definitely see the roots as it's going through there.
Yeah.
Now Carl Chudik is a kind of a brilliant designer, and someone wants to know what it's like spending time and working with him.
It's I'm looking at the comments now. Those are great. Yeah, Carl is, the smart genius guy. Sometimes he's stubborn, sometimes I'm stubborn. But he brings a lot of the chaos and the brilliant ideas. I'm good at forging those ideas into the Excalibur sword of gaming brilliance. But it's really fun. It's a fun teamwork. With Matainai, actually, we've been able to play games. Because Carl lives over in China. We have been playing Matainai by text. So he has a deck of cards in China over there, and he tells me what I draw. And I'm like, all right, I play this here and this here. And he responds. And we can play like a 20-minute game that way. It's very silly, but fun.
And I think you said he wins more often than not?
I've gotten up to about 50-50 now.
Oh, okay.
At first, the first few games, I just got smoked, and I'm like, what the heck? This is terrible. And then I started to get better.
Well, someone here talked about your games, not penny press, but your other games have the minimalistic artwork style on them. Is that intentional? And if so, what's the reasoning behind it?
So some of our earlier stuff, obviously, the playtest series is black text on white cards. That's because it's a silly game. When we started out, I was tiny. Like, when I decided to publish Innovation, it was mostly because of the giant Glory to Rome fiasco. I knew Carl myself. I was at my friend's bachelor party, and Carl's like, I've got this game called History. And I'm like, okay, I know Glory to Rome has gone poorly, so I have started a game company, and I never came in expecting to publish other people's games. I figured I'd always publish my own. And I'm like, Carl, I can help you get this out. I have very little budget, but we can...
That sounds like a great pitch to a designer.
But I can make the art look, a little bit less clip arty. And so I had my friend Kara, who drew the Win, Loser, Banana characters, and I'm like, Kara, can you work with me and make a really simple presentation of this that's clean and nice? And we were able to do it. We didn't have budget to draw 110 different card arts and all that stuff. So we started out with clean and simple, and a lot of people liked that, so I kind of stuck with it a lot.
Okay. Well, I mean, now you're kind of branching out because your games have been mostly small. And I actually asked you to talk about that because there's this new microgame craze.
Yeah.
But you were kind of there, I guess, Win, Loser, Banana is a microgame?
Yeah, Win, Loser, Banana was the first microgame.
What's like the thought process behind it? You're like, this is such a silly thing, let's just do it?
So here's how it evolved. We were at a booth, and it was a small anime convention up in Portland called PortCon. And nobody was coming into our booth because, there aren't a ton of people in the dealer's room at a small con like that. So you have to figure out ways to get people in. So we had 3 index cards, and I wrote win, lose, and zombies on them. Somebody would walk by and be like, do you want to play Win, Lose, or Zombies? And they'd be like, no. So I changed it. And, it was a silly thing. People came into the booth, and I started doing that at cons. And at some point for a game, I had 3 extra cards on a print sheet. And I'm like, I could just, throw these out, or I could write Win, Lose, and Banana on them and put question marks on the back of the cards. There was no art. It was just a black card with the word win and a question mark on the back of it. And I had 50 copies of this. And I'm like, all right, I printed these 150 cards. Why not sell them for $1? And I left them at the booth. And I came back, and all of them had sold. I left for about 6 hours, and they were all gone. And I'm like, you guys sold 50 copies of Win, Lose, or Banana? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what's wrong with the world? And so I'm like,
thank you.
Yeah, but good work. So I'm like, all right, I guess we should draw art for Win, Lose, or Banana. And I went to Kara and I was like, geez, you want to draw 3 really silly characters? And she's like, yes, I do. And that is how it born. Now we've sold like 10,000 copies of Win, Lose, or Banana lifetime.
Which is mind-boggling.
Which is really silly.
Now you have mentioned that when you started, your parents gave you money to go. Now you just recently moved into the Kickstarter arena. What was your thought process behind that?
So Kickstarter, I love the idea of Kickstarter. Kickstarter is, for me, a consumer empowerment engine. It is the sort of thing where now, instead of investors or kids who have rich parents can do a thing, now anybody who has a great idea can say, hey, population, vote on my idea. Do you guys think I can do this? And in the board gaming realm, it's become a little bit more of a sales engine where you have to have pretty art first, but overall Kickstarter and crowdfunding sites are things that give purchasing power and decision power back to the population, which is really cool. I saw a bunch of successful Kickstarter projects for board games. I think Eminent Domain was one of the first big ones. I'm like, all right, I can jump in on this. And I've tried it a few times, gone really well. I've tried to be super open and transparent with backers when things happen. Like, Penny Press has been kind of a fiasco getting it over here with stupid, death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of delays. We haven't had any major delays, but everything's been like, 3 days here, 5 days here. Oh, Customs has rolled a 1, decided to hold your package for 3 weeks. They wanted to make sure that Penny Press was not terrorist.
They tend to roll that a lot, actually.
Yeah. But I love it.
So someone asked, what's the reasoning behind your logo and name?
So Asmati was the last name of a D&D character that I had back when I was a kid in the 90s.
Is he still alive, this character?
She.
Oh.
Yeah. I had lots of characters. There's actually a whole thing. Kalyana Asmati is kind of our company logo, or mascot, rather. She is the main character in the Consequential game that's been coming for a very long time.
Oh, yeah. How is that coming along?
It's coming. We're drawing lots of art, writing lots of stories.
Do we have like an estimated time frame now?
I'm going to be kickstarting it at Gen Con this year.
Okay.
Because I finally have the programming platform that we can use to write the game. When XCOM came out from Fantasy Flight, we saw that Unity could now effectively deploy to multiple platforms. And so I can write one app and have it be on iOS, on Android, and PC. And that is the budget that I have. I have the budget to write one app, and I didn't want to have to pick one platform. But now I'm super confident we can do it, and it's looking really good.
You didn't mention the sun.
Oh, the sun. Gosh, where did that come from? It is the crest of Ilaria, which is the city that Kalyana's from. I honestly don't remember where I first came up with the design. It was just a doodling design from 10, 15 years ago.
Is there anything that you can talk about that's coming up in the future?
So, stuff we've got coming up. So, Matainai, obviously, is coming up soon. We're going to kickstart in the next couple weeks because we want to have that out for Gen Con. So that's Carl's new Glory to Rome successor, grandchild, whatever you want to call it. It's more different than Uchronia, than Glory was, and also less different in different ways.
You really like that phrase.
I do. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. I am really excited to be able to bring out a game that is heavy in terms of gameplay weight, but you can play in 20 minutes on a table, and it's going to cost $15. That's awesome. That's the game I always wanted 5-10 years ago, and I'm very happy to be able to make it. So other stuff's coming up. We've got Consequential that I was talking about, which is our digital tabletop RPG hybrid, where you're going to play through a big story over the course of 12 to 16 sessions, each about an hour long, and it's going to be really cool. The other big project we're working on for the distant future is 1001 Space Odysseys, which is a game it's a successor to the Tales of the Arabian Nights line. Where you
really?
Yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yes. Julia's actually working on that, my girlfriend, who's been working with me for the past half year. What it is a game that's sort of like Arabian Nights, but we want to have a little bit more crunchy gameplay. Because Arabian Nights is a fun game, but it's very, very light.
Right.
It's roll and move. It's simple, but it's a lot of fun. We love the story bits from there. And what it is it's a game where you're going to draft a crew of various wacky aliens and stuff, and you're going to go out into space and do different missions, encounter planets. in terms of the level of seriousness, it's going to kind of live in a Hitchhiker's Guide world where things are pretty ridiculous and fun and silly. But we are going to have a little app where you get your stories from, and you're able to make choices, roll some dice based on your crew's skills, and
That sounds really interesting.
yeah. This is still a good year and a half out. Because we have to write all the stories. Right now what we're doing is world building. We've got art for all these crazy aliens like the Zib Zab and the Tim Tillowinks.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Tim Tillowinks.
Okay.
They're very interesting.
That could be the name of my new company.
Uh-oh.
All righty, Chris. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for look out for his games. I had a chance to play Penny Press while we were here, and it was extremely fun and a great theme.
Yeah, Penny Press will be out next month. It's at the warehouse now.
Okay. Well, folks, that's about it for today. We're starting to get a little crowded in here in the gaming area. I don't want to take up people's gaming space, so I'll have some more thoughts on the whole convention as a whole and different things I saw and played next week, both in our Dice Tower 403. That won't be out this week, but the following week. Also Board Game Breakfast, and I'll maybe do a video that also talks about some more stuff that I've seen. Guys, I appreciate you watching everything. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching.